part of Locked On Sports Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Hawks Postcast, your home for the best Atlanta Hawks talk. It's quick hitting local insight after every game. You can't get anywhere but right here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me is NBA and college basketball analyst DeShaun Tate. The Hawks Postcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And the Hawks beat the Nuggets and Warriors in the first 2 games of a 4-game road trip. We'll give you our takes on how they got it done again tonight against Golden State after getting it done against Denver. And we'll break down how holding Golden State under 30 points 3 out of 4 quarters gets you a 124-111 dub against the Dubs. Yep, that was pun intended. So Tate, you said your take was that Golden State may have passed the torch.
May have passed the torch. I'll tell you exactly what I mean by that, Tenitra.
Yeah, because I thought that was strong, so you got to explain yourself.
For so many years, we have known Golden State to be amongst those that are the best three-point shooting teams in the NBA. And so much of their success has been primarily based on that. I think that the Atlanta Hawks can put themselves in position to be able to contend with the best teams currently in the NBA in terms of their three-point shooting based off of the scheme that I think has been made clear by head coach Quinn Snyder, but also the acquisitions that were made during the trade. Mm-hmm. If you can find a way, we know that Corey Kispert is known for being this three-point shooter. What as one of the top three-point shooters in the league also right now being CJ McCollum, you start looking at how much better or how the improvement that Onyeka Okongwu has made from 3. You start looking at what guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker's been able to do from 3, a stretch 4 from Jalen Johnson, and just other guys are Luke Kennard, for crying out loud, watching him tonight in a very small, short span, but being consistent in the last handful of games or so. I think they could have something cooking. Now, is it like Splash Brothers 2.0 and this and that and the other? Probably not. But I think just in terms of being able to make their money, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, Tenitra, that we were talking about this team just can't throw a rock in the ocean from the boat from 3. But they've been playing significantly better. They're currently ranked number 5 in the NBA from that standpoint. And I think that this is something that is just slowly brewing and cooking for the Atlanta Hawks, in which they can make their money from 3. And when they can't, we know that they can also score the ball inside. They proved that on tonight versus a vertically challenged Golden State front court.
That's a very nice way to put that. But yeah, when you look at what this Hawks team was able to do, now that you've qualified what you said, because of course, when you hear someone say that Golden State may have passed the torch, that torch, of course, means in most people's minds chips. So I was thinking, yeah, you got to qualify it, but I think you did a great job of qualifying that you were talking about the Hawks and their efficiency and the success that they had tonight, and that we're starting to see on a consistent basis from the 3-point line. When you look in their front court, you see it from Onyeka Okongwu and even Kristaps Porzingis when he's suited up, of course, did not play.
That's another one.
Yes, but definitely one who's done well from the 3. And then when you look at Nickeil Alexander, nice night from him as well. And depending on which nights, I mean, there was the game a couple nights back. So, of course, the Hawks have won 3 in a row. So that first win in a 3-game stretch, B. Krejci had himself a nice night from 3. So you're right. You're starting.
I'm forgetting all these names.
Yeah, you're starting to see these guys really kind of step up. Oh, and your favorite who did not play tonight, coach's decision, Zachary Reese-Shea, also a couple nights ago, had himself some critical threes for this Hawks team. So, yeah, when you put it in that context, I would say that the Hawks are showing themselves to be formidable in an area where Golden State really made their bread and butter. Now, for me, tonight's take was that I think the real Luke Kennard finally showed up tonight, but I'll give him credit. he's been high-key showing up lately. So I won't just say that it's the starting point is here, because when you look at what he's been able to do across the last 10 games, he's averaging 20 points. Luke Kennard is averaging 20 points a game these last, 10 points a game in just 20 minutes. That's what I meant to say. But the importance of that is when you dig down into those numbers, 10 points, of course, the season high, 22 points tonight. The fact of the matter is he's getting there because of the 3-point ball. And the 3 ball is what he was brought here to produce, right? So at one point tonight, it got a little scary because he was questionable to return to the game with that neck strain. And thankfully he returned, but he didn't just return, he actually did damage. As I mentioned, season high 22 points, but DeShaun, he did that in just 20 minutes. And that's the tear we're trying to go on, because although he's averaging a little under 10 points in 20 minutes these last 10 games, the uptick is starting to happen, particularly in 4 of the last 5, where you're starting to see 13 points, 10, 12, 15. That's the thing that's so encouraging to me, because at one point I was thinking, you have one job, Luke Kennard, and we're not seeing you do it, and that's problematic. But tonight, just the opposite, 8 of 11 shooting from the field. At one point, Kennard hit 3 threes. He had him go down in 2 minutes. That helped the Hawks to go up double digits. Then he kicked off a 19-2 run from the Hawks, hit 6 threes. I believe that was in the third quarter. So again, I just think for the Hawks, it is very, very good that the real Luke Kennard is standing up.
No, I agree with that, Tenitra. And, just getting back to that whole thing about the 3-point shooting, do they still have Kyle Korver working with a lot of those guys in that department? I think that's going to be really big. I'm not even sure that you can name a guy on this roster. And I'm not saying anybody's like a prolific, knockdown 3-point specialist, sniper specialist or anything like that. I'm not even sure you can look down the list of guys on the roster that can take a 3 and make a 3. Like, you don't really hold your breath really when it comes to anybody. If there is one guy, maybe Dyson Daniels, maybe. But it's not surprising if he knocks down, has some pretty good games, similar to the way Kennard did on tonight. But I think that's something that's obviously very important for the team, kind of what you were talking about with the way that Luke Kennard performed. And it also puts opposing teams on their heels with not really picking your poison, not really knowing who to defend. Because when you have guys like Onyeka Okongwu and, you got to pay so much attention to Jaden Johnson, what he's been doing, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And then, now you got to prepare for CJ McCollum, who's obviously really good and helping out at the point guard position. That's assistant Nickeil Alexander-Walker as well. And wait till you get Kristaps Porzingis back, like you just said. But it kind of puts you in position like, okay, where do we go? What do we do? Who's the guy with the hot hand? So while there may not necessarily be a situation where assuming Jalen Johnson is your guy, obviously, and that's the guy you want to lock down and contain at least the best of your ability, you still have to account for so many different guys that can really step up and hit a big time shot that he can dish the ball to in the event that it comes to a crunch situation. So a lot of really good problems for the Atlanta Hawks moving forward with guys that can really shoot the basketball at a high clip.
Good problems indeed, and hopefully not too much of a problem for Asa Newell. Of course, he went down with a quad contusion, and he was questionable to return at the start of the fourth quarter, only played 4 minutes tonight. So certainly hope that he will have nothing that's lingering with that quad contusion. Now, the Hawks went on an extended run that saw an explosion on offense, but some lockdown defense as well. We'll talk about how that stretch was the turning point when we come back. This episode of our Locked On Hawks postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Friends, Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. So Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new. Boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect, right before the games, right before the weekend starts, and it adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. This episode of our Locked On Hawks postcast is also brought to you by Game Time. During basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building, the energy, the crowd, that first big run that gets everyone on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost. That's where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives the fans advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets, fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Browsing the Game Time app is straightforward and intuitive. Finding tickets takes just a few taps, and seeing the view from your seat before buying makes choosing tickets easy and confident. And prices include fees up front, so the total is clear from the start. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today and get in on the action. Thank you for making the Hawks Postcast your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. So after being down 10 early, Hawks went on a 16-6 run in the second quarter that put them up by 6 at halftime. And, although the Hawks lead eventually ballooned to 25 and they beat the Warriors by 13, of course, that run that started in the second quarter was the start of the turning point.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
At one point in that first quarter, DeShaun, it looked really, really abysmal. Like the Hawks were like 1 of 7 because Golden State really came out firing on all cylinders. And you're thinking, okay, whoa, it's one of those. But then the Hawks pulled to within 1 in the first quarter. But where you really saw the Hawks clamp down was in that second quarter that then bled into the third quarter. Hawks, of course, outscored Golden State 32-25. And then in the third quarter, hold them to just 25 points again. And the Hawks add a couple more with 35 points in that third quarter. So you really saw a run from the Hawks that was able to sustain itself even across halftime, and even their defensive intensity, they were able to maintain that across quarters and across the half as well.
I thought that was big for them, Tenitra, because first of all, a lot of we're going to resonate so much of tonight's win with Luke Kennard that this is really kind of before Luke Kennard really got going and started getting hot. This was really such a moment of which you ended the first half with some big time shots. I think 3 straight threes, I believe, from Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who pitched in quite a bit. And obviously Jalen Johnson was right there to follow a lot of that up. But even in the beginning of the third quarter, Dyson Daniels with some big time shots. He's really seeming to kind of perfect his craft in terms of getting to the basket and penetration, getting downhill, throwing up the teardrop, the floater. We keep talking about how much better that he's getting in that department. And it's really becoming like a teamwork makes the dream work, finding and developing, establishing chemistry amongst one another. I think that between those 2 quarters is really kind of where you found the team that, I really felt like primarily not focused so much on, Draymond Green's antics, potentially just continue to play, your game, be present on the perimeter, by the way, no last minute closeouts. As much as we could talk about how well that they were, but with separating themselves on the offensive side of the ball, they were able to get some big time stops as well. When there were situations or possessions where they needed to get out and run, they found the balance with that and slowing it down. They realized that Golden State was a team that was not very good defensively. So they were able to really take advantage of Golden State having their shoes nailed to the floor. Stephen Curry a little bit while he's definitely one of the better conditioned players in the NBA. Still has a little bit of age on him, taking advantage of that and some of his defensive deficiencies, even with Draymond Green being a guy who's not really offensively gifted as much, taking advantage of that and making them turn the ball over. Golden State's one of the highest rated turnover teams in the NBA, I think averaging about 15. And the Hawks were making sure they were taking advantage of that with some really strong defense.
Yeah, Hawks indeed were able to get the Golden State Warriors in the opponent's sweet spot, if you will, as you mentioned, because they did indeed have 15 turnovers tonight. And you said teamwork makes the dream work. And it's true, because the Hawks were able to get 11 players on the court and everyone but Asa Newell scored. But again, Asa Newell went down to injury, so he only played 4 minutes. But the Hawks got good out of so many players. They had 6 players in double figures. Dyson Daniels almost had a double-double. Of course, Onyeka Okongwu and Jalen Johnson both had double-doubles. And when you see 32 assists, you know that that's really a team effort. Or when you see 9 steals or 5 blocks, and all 5 of those blocks, in fact, none of those blocks belong to Onyeka Okongwu, that's pretty impressive. That is a prime example of teamwork.
It's a good call, Tenitra.
Yeah. And, we also saw some good from 2 of the Hawks' most recent acquisitions in the Trae Young trade, of course, CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. Those guys made their Hawks debuts tonight. CJ McCollum, of course, 12 points in 24 minutes on 5 of 14 shooting. Good night for him. 4 assists, a steal and a block. And Corey Kispert, just 2 points in 14 minutes, but he did get a steal as well, a couple boards and 3 dimes. So what do you think about the debuts of McCollum and Kispert tonight?
Well, obviously with McCollum, I love it. He's the more seasoned vet in the league and everything else. And, this is the very first stop ever for Corey Kispert. So, probably a little bit of butterflies or just kind of getting used to. I mean, you got to remember, these are guys that's not at all used to whatever the system is and the scheme and just really going out there trying to really let it fly, especially if you're Corey Kispert. I mean, in such a poor performance, he didn't try and go out there and do anything. To me, it's a win without it being a win, if that makes any sense, because we know that he's known for his shooting. He obviously didn't shoot it well on tonight, but because he didn't try and go out there and do anything ridiculously crazy that he's not used to, he didn't play terrible on defense, I don't think. So I think that also helps. But he'll find a way to make that shot fall. I'm really confident in that. I think he'll be just fine. I actually like the fact that they both look like it wasn't their first game in a Hawks uniform. Like they both like they belonged and actually made this team really just like they didn't miss a beat, because you put these guys both in the game. And I think that's a really good look for the Hawks, because nobody was necessarily out there looking lost or anything.
Yeah, I thought the comment from Robert Blackman that said CJ is going to be a good problem, I like that comment. I would agree with you on that. I think that's a good get for the Hawks, a nice addition at just the right time, giving them some more depth coming off the bench and knowing that if you had to put him in as a starter, certainly he has that experience and he could definitely bring something to the table. And like you said, Corey Kispert, a young player, so this is a new experience for him, but hopefully he'll be able to give something to the Hawks. And look, when we think about what the expectation was when the Hawks got Dyson Daniels, the Hawks got more than they ever could have expected from Dyson Daniels throughout the course of last season. And we're now seeing him return to that form this season. And so far, we can say just the same for Nickeil Walker-Alexander. But listen, the Hawks are at the midpoint of their season, 20-21 on the season, 13-10 on the road. But again, starting this road trip with 2 wins. What did you see from this Hawks team that you liked in the first half?
I like the fact that, first of all, with them being on a 2-game win streak, they are 2-game win streak, both of them on the West Coast. I think that they went unbeaten the last time they were on the West Coast.
Yes.
The West Coast games, I think, all and not only that, but just road games in general, being able to walk into another opposing team's arena, walk away with a win, doing so without Trae Young in a lot of those games, I think was really big for this team as well. And, just bringing guys in that are just productive, that are open to contributing, playing basketball the right way, and really helping more than they are hurting. You start implementing how this team looks. When you thought you were going to have Kristaps Porzingis, haven't had him a whole lot. Onyeka Okongwu steps right into the spot, plug and play. Nickeil Alexander-Walker at the point guard position, albeit not being a traditional point guard, not having Trae Young, really didn't look all that bad. I think it's really a win-win situation so far for the Atlanta Hawks in the first half.
Yeah, early returns would say the same. So, DeShaun, I gave one of the cool comments that I thought we got from our audience tonight. What other comments did you kind of see that you liked from our audience?
I'm going to roll with this one. A happy new year to you, Willie Carswell, one of our regulars here on the show. Yes. Appreciate you for tapping in. Said he was out there, talking about Luke Kennard was out there looking like Reggie Miller, the way that he was out there shooting the ball from the perimeter. Definitely was looking like Reggie Miller on tonight. We can use a little bit more of that moving forward. Maybe it's a good thing that I guess there was a swap between he and CJ McCollum for the number 3. So now he's wearing number 4. Maybe it's a good thing he's wearing number 4 now.
Yeah. Sometimes a little of that tweaking is not a lot, but sometimes a little something goes a long way. And sometimes it's just mental and it's just a nice reset. But real quick, before we wrap up, D-Guy 2Hawks2 also gave CJ his props tonight for ball handling, shot making. But I think the most important thing that he said was what will be eliminated, because there have been moments where the Hawks have been known to have this happen to them time and time again throughout this season, where we were just looking and saying, hey, where's the hot hand going to come? So I love what D-Guy 2Hawks had to say about what he thinks about these new hot hands with the Hawks. The Hawks Postcast is the number 1 place to hang out after every game and is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So remember, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for more on the Hawks, head over to Locked On Hawks with our guy, Brad Rowland. We'll see you.